My parents want me to gift my $380,000 condo to my sister as a wedding present. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but I need to know if I'm losing my mind here. I'm a 30-year-old software engineer who's worked my ass off for the past 8 years to get where I am. My sister Emily is 26 and works as a social media manager for a lifestyle brand. She got engaged 6 months ago to her boyfriend Marcus of 2 years, and the wedding planning has turned my entire family upside down in ways I never anticipated. Here's the background you need to understand why this situation is so insane. I bought my condo 3 years ago when the market dipped slightly. It's a 2-bedroom place in downtown Seattle, nothing fancy but in a great location near my office. The building has good amenities, a gym, a rooftop deck, secure parking. I put down 20% that I'd saved for 5 years, living with roommates in sketchy neighborhoods and eating ramen more times than I care to admit. I drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic that broke down monthly. I skipped vacations, missed concerts, turned down expensive nights out. Every bonus, every tax refund, every side project payment went into that down payment fund. The place is now worth about $380,000 according to recent comps in my building. Emily has always been the golden child. Not in a malicious way, she's genuinely charming and has this way of making everyone feel special. Our parents adore her, and honestly, so do I. She's creative, funny, and usually pretty grounded. She went to a private art school for marketing and design, while I went to state school for computer science. Our parents paid for her entire education because artists need support, while I took out loans because tech people make good money anyway. I didn't resent it then. I believed in investing in my own future. Her fiancé, Marcus, seems like a decent guy. He works in marketing at a startup, one of those companies that's perpetually about to explode, but never quite does. He drives a leased BMW and always has the latest everything: iPhone, MacBook, designer sneakers. I'd always assumed he came from money, but Emily mentioned once that his parents were teachers. The math never quite added up, but it wasn't my business. Last Sunday, my parents invited me over for what I thought was just a regular family dinner. Mom made her famous lasagna. Dad opened a bottle of the good wine he usually saves for holidays. Emily and Marcus were there too, which wasn't unusual. We were having coffee and Mom's homemade tiramisu after dinner when my dad cleared his throat in that way that means he's about to say something important. "James," he started, using his serious voice, the one he used when I was a kid, and he was about to explain why my behavior was disappointing. "Your mother and I have been discussing Emily's wedding gift." I nodded, already mentally calculating what I could contribute. I'd been setting aside money, figuring I'd give them maybe $5,000 toward the wedding or honeymoon. It was generous but manageable. "We think it would be meaningful if you gifted Emily and Marcus your condo." I literally thought I'd misheard him. The words didn't make sense in that order. I laughed, an uncomfortable sound that came out more like a cough. "Sorry, what?" My mother jumped in, her tone patient like she was explaining something to a child who was being deliberately obtuse. "Married couples need stable housing more than single tech workers who can live anywhere, sweetheart. You work remotely half the time anyway, and you could easily rent a studio or move in with roommates again. It's just for a few years until you find someone and settle down yourself." The room felt like it was spinning. I looked at Emily, expecting her to look as shocked as I felt, expecting her to say, "Mom, Dad, that's insane." Instead, she was smiling hopefully at me, Marcus's arm around her shoulders, both of them leaning forward expectantly. "It would mean everything to us, James," she said softly, her voice taking on that quality she's perfected over the years, vulnerable but not quite begging, hopeful but with an undertone that suggests disappointment is inevitable. "Starting our marriage with that kind of security, it would be life-changing. You know how brutal the rental market is. We've been looking, and everything is either too expensive or too far from our jobs." I couldn't form words. My brain was still trying to process the request. My mother continued, filling the silence, "You make good money, honey. Over $150,000 a year, right? You'll be able to buy another place in no time. But Emily and Marcus are just starting out. Their combined income is maybe half of yours. The rental market is brutal right now, and buying is out of the question for them. Plus," my dad added, his tone suggesting this was the most reasonable thing in the world, "family helps family. That's what we do. When you get married, we'll all come together to help you too. That's how families work, we lift each other up." I managed to stammer out that I needed to think about it, that this was a huge ask. The words felt inadequate. This wasn't a huge ask, It was an insane ask. It was like asking me to cut off my arm and gift it to them because they might need an extra hand. The disappointment on their faces was immediate and crushing. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Think about it. My mother's voice had that edge of hurt that had been making me feel guilty since I was 5 years old. James, this is your sister. Your only sister. The only sibling you'll ever have. Emily's eyes were starting to tear up. She had always been a pretty crier, the kind where tears make her eyes sparkle rather than get puffy. I knew you wouldn't understand, she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. You've always been so focused on your career, on your things. I thought maybe, just once, family would come first. I thought you'd want to be part of starting our new life together. Marcus finally spoke, his tone measured but with an edge. We're not asking for a handout, James. We'd take care of the place. We'd even cover the HOA fees and property taxes. You'd still technically own it. We could work out the details later. Technically own it. I found my voice. But you'd live in it. That's called being a landlord, not gifting. Don't be pedantic, my father said sharply. You know what we mean. The point is helping your sister start her married life properly, not getting caught up in semantics. I left shortly after, my head spinning, my stomach churning. They'd ambushed me with this insane request and somehow made me feel like the bad guy for not immediately agreeing to give away my home. My largest asset, my security, the thing I'd worked years to achieve. The thing that represented every sacrifice I'd made, every meal I'd skipped, every opportunity I'd passed up to save money. The text started that night. Mom sent a long message about how disappointed she was in my selfishness, how she'd raised me better than this, how my grandmother would be rolling in her grave knowing I'd chosen money over family. She reminded me of every time Emily had shared her toys with me as children, conveniently forgetting that I'd also shared with her. Dad sent articles about the importance of family support systems, about cultures where families pool resources, about the loneliness epidemic among successful professionals who prioritize career over relationships. Each article felt like a targeted attack on my life choices. Emily sent a simple, "I'm sorry for expecting too much from you" broken heart, that somehow felt worse than anger would have. It was perfectly crafted to make me feel like a monster while maintaining her position as the wounded party. I've been sick to my stomach all week. I haven't been able to focus at work. I've barely slept. Every time I walk into my condo, I feel guilty. I look at the second bedroom I use as an office and think about Emily and Marcus living here, starting their life together. Then I think about me, at 30, living with roommates again, starting over from scratch, and the guilt turns to anger, then back to guilt. Am I really being selfish? Is this a normal thing families do? I mentioned it to one coworker, trying to be casual about it, and his eyes nearly bugged out of his head. But maybe tech people don't understand family loyalty the way others do? I love my sister, but giving her my condo feels insane. But the way they're acting makes me feel like I'm some kind of monster for even hesitating. They've created this narrative where I'm Scrooge hoarding his wealth while Tiny Tim suffers, except Tiny Tim is a healthy 26-year-old with a job and a fiancé who drives a BMW. I don't know what to do. Every path forward seems to lead to destroying my relationship with my family. If I don't give them the condo, I'm the selfish brother who chose money over family. If I do give it to them, I'll resent them forever. Help me understand if I'm the asshole here or if this request is as crazy as it feels. Update 1, 2 weeks later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. The unanimous agreement that this request was absolutely insane helped me feel less crazy, but I was still struggling with how to handle it. I couldn't shake the guilt, even knowing logically that I shouldn't feel guilty. Every family photo in my condo felt like an accusation. Every comfortable night in my own bed felt like a betrayal of my sister. The universe works in mysterious ways, though. My team lead, Sharon, is one of those people who just seems to notice when something's off. She pulled me aside after a meeting where I'd been completely zoned out, had missed 3 direct questions, and had to be nudged by a coworker to pay attention. "Coffee. You look like you're about to implode," she said, in that tone that wasn't really a request. Sharon's in her mid-40s, has 3 kids, and has this no-nonsense approach to everything that I've always admired. She'd been in tech for 20 years, had survived multiple layoffs, had climbed from junior developer to team lead through sheer competence and determination. She didn't take anyone's crap, but she also genuinely cared about her team. I hadn't planned to tell her anything, but sitting in the break room with her looking at me with those knowing eyes, it all just came pouring out. The dinner, the request, the guilt-tripping, the texts, the silent treatment from my family, the fact that I'd been called selfish so many times in the past 2 weeks that the word had started to lose meaning. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly incredulous. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, then said, "James, do you know what financial coercion is?" I shook my head, though something in my stomach clenched at the words. It's a form of abuse where someone uses money or assets to control or manipulate another person. What your family is doing, demanding you give up your largest asset and making you feel guilty for refusing, that's textbook financial coercion. The word abuse hit me like a slap. But they're my family. They're not abusive. They think they're doing what's best for Emily. They've never hit me or anything like that. Sharon leaned forward, her coffee forgotten. Abuse isn't always physical, James. Let me ask you something. If Emily came to you and said she needed help with a security deposit, or even a few months' rent while she got on her feet, would you help her? Of course, I answered immediately. I'd help her in a heartbeat if she really needed it. But that's not what they're asking for, is it? They're asking you to forfeit your entire future financial security for her wedding present. They're asking you to give up your home so she can have a fairy tale start while you go back to having roommates at 30. Does that sound like a family that values you equally? I hadn't thought of it that way. The framing made something click in my brain. She continued, "Here's another question. Has your family ever made significant financial sacrifices for you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. They'd paid for Emily's college because she'd gone to a private art school that cost $50,000 a year. I'd gone to state school and taken out loans, which I'd paid off myself, $400 a month for 7 years. When I'd started my career, I'd lived in a sketchy apartment with 3 roommates for 2 years saving for my down payment while Emily lived at home rent-free until she moved in with Marcus. When my car had finally died completely, I'd taken the bus for 6 months until I could afford a reliable used car. When Emily's car had problems, Dad had co-signed for her new one. "No," I admitted. "Not really. Actually, not at all." Sharon nodded. "Look, I'm not saying your parents don't love you. But sometimes family dynamics get so entrenched that people don't even realize how unfair they're being. You've been cast as the responsible one, the one who doesn't need help, the one who can figure it out on his own. And Emily's been cast as the one who needs support, who needs protection, who needs help. Neither of you chose these roles, but you're both stuck in them." She was right. I thought about every family story, every holiday dinner conversation. I was always the one who had it together, while Emily was always the one who was finding herself, or just needs a little help, or is going through a tough time. "You need to set boundaries," Sharon continued, "and you need to do it firmly. This won't be easy. They'll escalate before they back down, if they back down at all." She offered to help me practice what I'd say. We spent my entire lunch break role-playing, with her being increasingly guilt-trippy and manipulative while I practiced staying calm and firm. She threw everything at me. Tears, anger, accusations of not being a real family member, threats of being cut off, reminders of every tiny thing anyone had ever done for me. It was harder than any code review I've ever done, harder than any technical interview. "I understand you're disappointed, but I will not be giving away my home. This is not a reasonable request, and I won't discuss it further. I love Emily and will support her in appropriate ways, but this is not one of them." Sharon helped me understand that JING, justify, argue, defend, explain, would only give them more ammunition. Every reason I gave would be countered. Every explanation would be twisted. Keep it simple, keep it firm, keep repeating. I sent a group text that evening, after rewriting it 15 times. "I've thought about your request carefully. I will not be gifting my condo to Emily and Marcus. This is not a reasonable ask, and I'm disappointed that you would expect this of me. I'm happy to contribute to the wedding in a normal, appropriate way. I've budgeted $5,000 as a wedding gift. This topic is closed for discussion." The responses were swift and brutal. Mom called immediately. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail crying, actually crying, about how she'd failed as a mother to raise such a selfish son. She said she couldn't believe she'd given birth to someone who valued money over his own sister's happiness. Dad texted, "I'm disgusted by your greed. Your sister has always been there for you, and this is how you repay her? By hoarding your wealth like some kind of dragon? Your priorities are completely screwed up." Emily sent a long message about how she'd always felt I looked down on her for not being in tech, for not making as much money, and now she had proof that I thought I was better than her. She said I'd always been cold, always been calculating, always been more interested in my computers than in people, and this just confirmed what she'd always suspected, that I didn't really love her at all. Marcus, who had been silent until now, sent, "Way to show your true colors, man. Family means nothing to you. I feel sorry for whatever woman ends up with you. She'll always know she comes second to your bank account." Each message felt like a physical blow. These were people I loved, people I'd shared holidays with, people who were supposed to love me, and they were saying the cruelest things they could think of. I turned off my phone and went to the gym. I ran on the treadmill until I thought I might throw up, then lifted weights until my muscles screamed, then sat in my car in the parking lot and cried. Full-on sobbed like I hadn't since I was a kid. Even knowing I was right didn't make it hurt less. If anything, it made it worse, because it meant accepting that my family's love came with conditions I couldn't meet. Update 2, 3 months later. The next few weeks after setting my boundary were hell. I was uninvited from family dinners. My mother called my aunt, who called me to tell me how disappointed she was, how she couldn't believe I'd turned my back on family this way. My uncle sent me a Facebook message about how his generation understood family values, but apparently, my generation only cared about themselves. Emily posted passive-aggressive quotes on Instagram about fake people and knowing who really loves you. One particularly painful one said, "Blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family," with a caption about how some people show you who they really are when you need them most. But I held firm. Every time doubt crept in, I remembered Sharon's words. Would they give up their home for you? The answer was always no. I knew, deep down, that if positions were reversed, they'd never even consider such a request reasonable. The wedding planning continued without me. I heard updates through the family grapevine. Emily and Marcus had decided on a country club venue, a 250-person guest list, a destination bachelorette party in Cabo, custom everything. The few relatives who still spoke to me mentioned the costs seemed to be spiraling. My cousin Rachel said the venue alone was $30,000. I'd sent my $5,000 gift despite everything, transferring it directly to Emily's account with a note, "Wishing you both happiness. Love, James." She hadn't acknowledged it. The money had been accepted. I saw it leave my account, but no thank you, no acknowledgement that it had been received. Then, about a month before the wedding, Rachel reached out with more than just gossip. Rachel and I had been close as kids but drifted apart in adulthood. She was firmly Team Emily in this whole situation, but her message surprised me. "Hey, I know things are weird right now, but I thought you should know, Emily and Marcus are in way over their heads with this wedding. They've maxed out their credit cards and are talking about taking out a loan. Your parents are freaking out but already gave them $15,000 and can't afford more. Mom said they're considering taking money from their retirement. It's a mess." I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Vindication, definitely. Sadness, too. And surprisingly, genuine concern. Despite everything, I didn't want Emily to start her marriage drowning in debt. But I also couldn't help thinking that if they'd accepted my original $5,000 gift graciously and planned within their means, none of this would be happening. I didn't reach out, though. They'd made it clear I wasn't welcome in their lives unless I gave them my home. I focused on work, started therapy, and tried to build a life that wasn't centered around family approval. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, helped me understand that I'd been the family scapegoat, the one who was expected to sacrifice without complaint, whose needs were always secondary to everyone else's. The wedding came and went. I saw the photos on social media. It looked beautiful. Emily looked radiant in a designer dress that I knew cost more than my car. The flowers were elaborate, the cake was 5 tiers, the band looked professional. Marcus's groomsmen all had matching designer suits. I felt a pang of sadness that I wasn't there, but I'd made peace with it. Or so I thought. 2 weeks after the wedding, Rachel texted again, "Did you hear? Emily and Marcus are already in marriage counseling. The debt stress is killing them. They're fighting constantly about money." I didn't respond, but I worried. Then, 3 months after the wedding, 6 months after that horrible dinner, my phone rang at 10 p.m. It was Emily. I almost didn't answer. But something, maybe the late hour, maybe the 6 months of silence, maybe just missing my sister, made me pick up. "James." Her voice was thick with tears. Not the pretty tears from that dinner, but real, ugly crying. "Please don't hang up. I'm here," I said carefully. "I'm so sorry." The words came out in a rush, like she'd been holding them back and the dam had finally broken. "I'm so sorry. You were right. We were horrible to you. I was horrible to you. I've been the worst sister in the world." I stayed silent, not trusting myself to speak, afraid that if I opened my mouth, I'd either forgive everything too quickly or say something I'd regret. Marcus and we've been in counseling. Marriage counseling, but also individual therapy for me. My therapist, she helped me see. She took a shaky breath. "I've been so entitled. My whole life, I just expected things to work out, expected people to take care of me. And when you said no, I was so angry because it was the first time someone had set a real boundary with me." "Emily." "No, please let me finish. I need to say this. The wedding. God, James, we spent $75,000. $75,000 we didn't have. We're drowning. Marcus and I fight about money every single day. We almost separated last month because the stress was destroying us. We've been married 4 months, and we've already almost divorced. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and meant it. Whatever had happened between us, I didn't want my sister's marriage to fail. My therapist asked me to imagine if the situation was reversed. If you demanded I give you my car, or my engagement ring, or anything I'd worked hard for, just because you were getting married. And I realized how absolutely insane our request was. How cruel we were to you. She was crying harder now. You worked so hard for that condo. You saved and sacrificed, and we just expected you to hand it over like it was nothing. Like your accomplishments meant nothing. Like you meant nothing beyond what you could give us. It hurt, I admitted, my own voice getting thick. It really hurt. Not just the request, but how you all reacted when I said no. Like I was suddenly the enemy. I know, and I'm so sorry. Mom and Dad, they're still angry, but I think it's because they know they were wrong too. They just can't admit it yet. Their pride won't let them. We talked for another hour. She told me about the reality of starting a marriage $60,000 in debt, the $75,000 wedding minus the $15,000 from our parents. How they'd had to cancel their honeymoon to Greece and go to a local B&B for 2 nights instead. How they were both working second jobs now. She was doing freelance social media work on evenings and weekends. Marcus was driving Uber after his regular job. How the stress had nearly broken them before counseling helped them see they needed to be partners, not adversaries. Could we maybe get coffee sometime? She asked tentatively. I understand if you never want to see me again, but I miss my brother. The real relationship we had before I turned into a bridezilla monster. Before I let greed and entitlement ruin everything. I agreed to meet her that Saturday. Final update, present day. Emily and I met at a small coffee shop downtown, not far from my condo. She looked tired but more like herself than she had in years. The entitled princess act was gone, replaced by something more genuine, more mature. She'd lost weight, and not in a good way. The stress was written all over her face. I need to tell you something, she started after we'd gotten our drinks. The condo thing. It wasn't even my idea originally. Mom had been planting seeds for weeks about how unfair it was that you had such a nice place while Marcus and I were struggling. She made it sound so reasonable, like it was the obvious solution. She kept saying things like, in my day, families shared everything, and James won't even notice the sacrifice with his salary. This didn't entirely surprise me, but it still stung. But you went along with it. I did. And that's on me. I'm 26 years old, James. I should have known better. I did know better, deep down. But it was easier to believe I deserved it than to face the fact that I needed to work harder, save more, be more responsible. It was easier to think you were selfish than to admit I was entitled. She pulled out her phone and showed me a spreadsheet. Marcus and I have been tracking every penny. We've got a 5-year plan to pay off the wedding debt and start saving for a house. A real plan, not just wishful thinking. We've cut up the credit cards. We're living on cash and debit only. I looked at the spreadsheet. It was detailed, thorough, realistic. They'd allocated money for rent, utilities, food, transportation, debt payment, and a tiny emergency fund. Their entertainment budget was $50 a month. Their clothing budget was $0 until the debt was paid. That's great, Em. Really. I'm proud of you for taking control. Would you maybe be willing to help us? Not with money, she added quickly, seeing my expression. With knowledge. You're so good at this stuff. Budgeting, investing, planning. Marcus and I clearly suck at it, but we want to learn. We need to learn. That's how our monthly financial planning sessions started. Every first Saturday of the month, Emily, Marcus, and I meet at that same coffee shop. I teach them about compound interest, index funds, the real cost of debt, the importance of emergency funds. Marcus turned out to be a quick learner once he got over his pride, and he's actually helped me understand some marketing concepts that have been useful in my own career development. The sessions evolved into more than just financial planning. We talk about boundaries, about family patterns, about breaking cycles. Emily told me once that nearly losing her marriage 3 months in was the best thing that could have happened to them. We thought we were starting with nothing, she said. But we were actually starting with a massive deficit, not just financial, but emotional. We'd built our entire relationship on this fantasy of what life would be like, not on reality. It forced us to become actual partners instead of just playing house. They're down to $38,000 in debt now. They both got promotions. Turns out desperation is a hell of a motivator. Emily negotiated a 30% raise by taking on additional responsibilities and proving her value with metrics. Marcus moved to a more established company with better pay and actual benefits. They live in a modest one-bedroom apartment in a less trendy neighborhood and take the bus to work. Emily sold most of her designer clothes and her engagement ring upgrade, keeping the original, modest ring. Marcus sold his BMW and bought a 10-year-old Toyota. They're becoming people I genuinely respect. My parents are slowly coming around. They attended one of our coffee sessions last month, ostensibly to learn about retirement planning. I think they were really checking that Emily and I had reconciled. Mom couldn't quite meet my eyes when Emily explained how she'd learned that family helps family doesn't mean family takes advantage of family. James taught me that real help is teaching someone to stand on their own feet, not carrying them everywhere, Emily said, looking at our parents pointedly. He gave us something more valuable than a condo. He gave us the push we needed to grow up. The session was awkward, but it was a start. Dad sent me a text afterward. Proud of you, son. It wasn't an apology, but I'll take it. Mom added me back to the family group chat last week. Baby steps. Sharon, my team lead, was promoted to director, and she promoted me to team lead. During my review, she said, "You've shown real growth in standing firm under pressure. That's a vital leadership skill. The boundary setting we practiced has served you well in other areas, I see." I've started dating someone, a graphic designer named Amy, who finds this whole story fascinating in a horrifying way. She met Emily and Marcus last month, and afterward said, "I like them. But I'm really glad you didn't give them your condo. That would have been a disaster for everyone." Last week, Emily sent me a listing for a condo in my building that's for sale. "We're not ready yet," she wrote. "But in 18 months, when we're debt-free and have saved a down payment, something like this would be perfect. And it would be nice to be neighbors, the normal way." I wrote back, "I'll help you run the numbers when you're ready. And I'll help you negotiate. But you're buying it yourselves." She responded with a heart emoji and, "The right way this time. The way that will actually mean something." Looking back, that horrible dinner was actually a gift. It forced all of us to confront some toxic patterns that had been building for years. Emily had to face her entitlement and learn real responsibility. I had to learn to set boundaries even when it hurt. Our parents had to confront their favoritism and enabling, though they're still working on fully accepting it. We're not perfect. Family dinners are still sometimes stilted. Mom occasionally makes passive-aggressive comments about how a studio apartment would be cozier for me. But we're working on it. We're all in therapy, individual and family. It's expensive, but less expensive than the alternative of a completely fractured family. Emily asked me once if I ever regretted not giving them the condo, even for a second. "No," I told her honestly. "But I would have regretted it forever if I had." She nodded. "Me too. It would have destroyed us, Marcus and me, you and me, probably the whole family. We would have spent it like we spent everything else, learned nothing, and expected more. We'd probably be divorced by now, and I'd be living in your condo alone, unable to afford it, waiting for you to bail me out again." The entitlement she'd carried her whole life nearly cost her everything: her marriage, her brother, her self-respect. But losing the fantasy of an easy life gave her the chance to build a real one. I still live in my condo. I've painted the walls, upgraded the kitchen, made it truly mine. Sometimes on Saturday mornings, I stand at my window with my coffee, looking out at the city I've worked so hard to make a place in. I think about family, about obligation, about the difference between helping and enabling. My therapist says I've developed a healthy relationship with boundaries. That I've learned that no can be an act of love, love for yourself, and surprisingly, love for the people you're saying no to. That by refusing to enable Emily's entitlement, I gave her the gift of growth. Emily and Marcus are on track to be debt-free in 14 months. They've already started their house savings fund, $50 a month right now, but it's a start. They send me screenshots of their progress with messages like, "slow and steady," and "doing it right." Last month, Emily thanked me again. "You saved my marriage," she said. "If you'd given us that condo, we would have thought we could have everything without working for it. The debt from the wedding would have still happened, but we would have had your condo to fall back on. We would have refinanced, taken out equity, dug ourselves deeper. We never would have learned. Family helps family. But help isn't giving someone everything they want. It's not sacrificing your security for someone else's comfort. Real help, I've learned, is sometimes saying no. It's teaching instead of giving, supporting instead of enabling. It's being the bad guy in the moment so that everyone can win in the long run. Real help is loving someone enough to let them struggle, fail, and ultimately grow into the person they're capable of becoming. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is keep your condo and let your sister learn what it means to truly earn her own way home.